A few months ago, I reviewed the Revoltech Mother Legion, and since then, very clearly, another articulated Legion figure has come out. Only, I'd say like right after I made that review of the Revoltech Legion, the first pictures of the S.H.monsterarts Legion were shown off. Just by the original first few images, um, it looked very promising, right? Everyone seemed really happy about the way that it looked. Everyone was very impressed at the size. And then the second they found out that this figure would run you about 500 US dollars, everyone started to freak out. There's, I'd say maybe a little more than 50% of people are on the side that this figure is way too expensive. And then whatever the rest is, say that it's worth the price. If you've ever watched any of my other reviews of S.H.monsterarts figures, or really any video outside of Intercept, like the stop motion videos that I do, you'll know that I'm a S.H.monsterarts glazer. And um, honestly, even for me, the price of this figure is really, really hard to swallow. It's a very, very cool figure, and I love this thing, but the price is definitely something that could be. It could have been lowered. It is reasonable, or it's not reasonable, but it's more reasonable because of how much stuff it comes with and because of the size of it. But we'll get into that in a second. As of right now, not many people have done a review of this figure, most likely because of how expensive it is. I think there's only two, not counting my video, English reviews of this figure up right now. There's probably going to be more soon. With how Legion is standing right now, you can't really tell how big she is just because there's no background or whatever. But to put a slight perspective on how big this figure actually is, here's S.H.monsterarts Godzilla 1954, a figure that most people that collect the line have or will get at some point. She is on her stand here, but that barely adds anything to her height. And if you put Godzilla on the stand, you see he's still much, much smaller, obviously. Turning Legion this way, obviously, you can see a lot better the scale. Just from the front, she's clearly bigger, but here, um, I mean, just look. I'm doing this because most reviews I've seen don't really show the scale very well, but um, yeah, she's big. We all knew this, anyways, so I'm not sure how well you can see it on camera, but the detail on this figure is actually insane, which, is expected for a $500 figure, hopefully. Um, the way I described it is if you handed it to an elderly person with their eyes closed, they would most likely think it was an actual lobster, right? The claws themselves are roughly the size of actual like crab claws, and they feel exactly like crab claws. Um in general, the entire figure is coated with all kinds of different texture, all kinds of different shading, even where it isn't necessary. So you might not be able to see it super well with this lighting, but you should see what I mean. Um Especially here at the head. There's a sort of wash here. I'm not sure what to call this. Um, but this part, uh, it's like a gray shadow. It's like shading. Okay, I think I fixed the lighting. It looks better. Um, I'm gonna take this half off of the rest of it for now because it's easier to show it this way. Um, you can see in here as well. There's a lot of shading. Um, I'm still not sure exactly what to call that, but it's not pure bone color like the original release of the Revoltech. I know there's two releases of the Revoltech Legion, and the second release has more of a shine to it. But this figure, the painting wise, is sort of between the two releases because, in my opinion, the second release of the Revoltech figure has way too much gloss. It has like way too much shine, and the first one is too dry. It doesn't have enough like shimmer to it, like this one. Um, the egg sac here. Let's see. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but the eggs, or well, not really egg sac. I'm not sure what to call this. If you've watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But this entire portion is translucent, and so are these eyes, and they really, really show in person. And these eyes were the first thing that I saw. That when I first took it out of the box, these eyes like they blew me away. That's like the best way that I can say that. And the crystal inside of her crest thing, you can see, is also very clearly translucent. And just like the Revoltech, the details on this crystal are some of the best on the figure. The texture and paint all fade really well. And it's shiny, so there. Even the her little mouth thing is painted, which the Revoltech didn't even do. I'm gonna base most of these off of the Revoltech because the Revoltech is still a really good figure, even compared to the S.H.monsterarts one. um, all this black portion and brown portion on the figure is also very well sculpted and textured and painted. For the flight form, oh, for the flight form, you have to open this section up here. Um, and you won't really even be able to see this part very well, even in the flight form. But they still did a really good job at painting it, and there's so much texture in here. Basically, everywhere you look on this figure, there's going to be a lot of detail. So, putting that part aside, and then looking at this part, the legs are really impressive because of how many tiny little bumps are in there. It's literally just like crabs, like just like lobsters, just like crabs. And they feel, again, exactly like actual like crab legs. It's impressive that they can not only make it look like it, but also feel like it, if that makes sense. A lot of the black areas on the undersides of the legs, there's not much shading on them, but there is a lot of texture and detail. But the backside isn't as impressive as the front side, like obviously, but it still has all that shading that I was talking about on the front. The This part of the leg though, it really doesn't have any. So, I'm not sure. Some of the paint, it really depends on the area, right? Because the outside of the legs really well shaded and everything. And then if you look on the inside here, this looks like the Revoltech. So like not very well painted or shaded. Or well, not necessarily badly painted, but you know what I mean. Again, for articulation, I'm going to have it split in half just because of how heavy this backside is. I'll talk about that in a second, but this part of her is so much heavier than the rest of her that it makes it kind of hard to carry and like record at the same time. So, starting with the back half here, if you remember or you know anything about the Reveltech Legion, it's relatively similar to the articulation on that, right? So just on the back half, these legs, the big legs, they can probably do a 360, but I'm not going to. And they move about that far out. And this section moves up and down. It doesn't twist, it's just up and down. And this section here. This also just goes up and down. Okay. Then for these little legs here, same as the big ones, this part here can probably go all the way around. They can swivel, but they can't really go out. And then basically the same. This part can go down, and that one's a little bit tight on mine, but this part can go up and down, and this part can also go up and down. And then one thing that the Reveltech does not have is this whole middle section here is actually articulated. So you can get it to curve like this. So there's joint here, and then a joint here. Okay, so going over this side of Legion, this thing is packed with articulation. There's a lot of stuff to go over here. That fell off. It's probably not going to go back on very easy. Okay, so the head can move about that far up, right? About that far up, and that far down, that far to the left and right. Really good neck and head articulation here. There's a joint. So the way that this neck works for Legion here is there's a joint at the head and one at the neck in here. But this goes into transformation territory, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for the flight form, basically you take these parts, her shell, whatever you call them. I'm going to be careful not to break it. And you open them like that. You can then bring her, whatever this thing is called, up. And then, uh-oh. bring her entire head up more like this. Great. So doing that, you can see here, it's not just one solid neck joint like the Reveltech. So she can look all the way up, but unless you're doing this, she's not going to be able to. Um, if you need to for photography or anything like that, you probably can just get away with putting her in this, like, what's it called? So like opening her shell and having her look up like this. Like if you need to do stop motion or figure photography, right? Especially from the back, it looks a lot better. Here, let me fix this. Okay, I fixed it. I know she's in pieces right now, but I haven't had a ton of issues about this figure falling apart. I've this fell off obviously, and then I took this off. And then I also took her back half off. I'm doing this for the review. I haven't really had any major issues with stuff falling off, which is a really, really good thing if you know anything about S.H.monsterarts. So, I just talked about her neck. All of these claws I think have less articulation than the Reveltech figure did. Maybe. I'm not sure. Here. So, these on mine, they're really stiff, but they can move here at the base, that far out, that far in, and then they can move here, that far in, that far out, and obviously this part can swivel, this part cannot. Right. It's the same on all of these. Just a lot of these arms are really stiff on mine because I just got her today. I haven't been messing around with articulation too much. Like I've been messing around with it, but not enough to get them loose enough yet. And then these parts are pinchers, I suppose. They're attached to her legs, which is how, like, that's how they're supposed to be. But individually from the legs, they can move. They don't move that much, but they can move up and down without the legs about that much. And the pincher pinches. With the leg, though, this whole thing can move. The leg is really impressive because of how tiny they are, but how much they manage to get into it. Because Legion doesn't really use these legs. Or well, they're not like the main focus at all. But they're there. So there's a double knee joint here. I know it's hard to see because of this thing, which also moves, but there is actually a double knee joint here. So, see it? Right. And that goes for both sides. And these little toe things can swivel and go basically everywhere you want. The foot itself, or here, ankle can swivel. The foot It can swivel a little bit, but not too much. But it can move a little bit up and down. I already talked about these parts, so let me really quickly show these. So this attaches to her right here. You'll have to put this on out of the box because you sort of have to build her, not like a model kit, but more than most S.H.monsterarts figures. In order to accommodate her articulation, this sort of wishbone thing can actually swivel like this, and it can go in and out. And this goes, this sits basically like this. So when I put that back together in a second, you'll see she has an ab crunch, so you can move these to accommodate that, right? I'm going to keep this little section off for just a second. So you can see that there's a clear peg here, and this is for turning her into flight form. And with her lower half connected, she, in theory, should have an ab crunch, but because of how heavy this backside is, it doesn't really work. Right, so if I put her down and try to give an ab crunch, it just falls apart. Which is a little bit unfortunate. I said I didn't have many issues with it falling apart. That's the only one I have. So, you're right. Putting that back on. Okay. There's that, but also, let me zoom in. Right here, this crystal peg, in theory, ab crunch, right? So, her articulation is actually slightly limited by her flight form, which is surprising. Sort of. But, so, secondary ab crunch here. If you actually move this, you see that the peg comes undone, right? And it definitely looks like she's supposed to have like a twist, like an ab twist. But if you do that, that's just gonna fall off, or this is gonna pop out, and this is gonna fall off, right? But mechanically, this looks really good. Being able to have Legion do a twist like this, that's really, really good. But because this part is part of the flight form, you have to take this part out and push this all the way like that, right? So that is actually limiting the articulation as much as it could be. Similar to the neck, but that's a little bit different. Okay, for the rest of this video, I'm gonna talk about the mechanics of this figure. And no, I'm not doing the flight form. There is a very good reason why, though. Okay, so just stick around if you would like to. This figure is built really well. It's really well engineered. It's very complex compared to like every other S.H.monsterarts figure, except for some reason every other kaiju in the Gamera line. Every kaiju in the Gamera line so far has been insanely complicated, and this figure is no exception, like at all. The reason why I had it separated by the top and the bottom for most of the review is because if you were to have the bottom be incredibly light and then the top be as heavy as it currently is, it would have really, really, really bad issues, right? After maybe only a year or two, like the joints here would start drooping, everything would fall apart in the midsection, and more than likely, without the stand, it wouldn't be able to stand because, like, this is clearly very top heavy, right? The massive spike, the massive horn, all of this, right? And then all of that back there is like, it would not be enough. So what they did is this entire back half of her is weighted a lot, right? If you have the what's it called? I don't remember what year it was, but the Gamma anime figure, Gamma Rebirth. That figure is really, really heavy. Okay. The back of Legion, alone, is about as heavy as that whole figure. Legion is a very, very heavy figure just because of how big it is, but also because of how they decided to have weight balance. Because otherwise, like there would be some major, major issues with like everything, right? And that's really impressive to me because that shows that they're really learning, right? There's been figures with issues similar to that in the past, and even the Reveltech suffers from that a little bit because the front leans, and it's hard to get it after like 8 years, I think, of it being released. The top half of it arches down and is hard to keep in a straight up position, right? At least for mine. But um, S.H.monsterarts being able to do this shows like improvement, right? And that's not that alone isn't worth $500, obviously. But it's still a major, major improvement, and it can show that, like with a figure like this, they can put effort into it. They can put a lot of effort into figures. Like if they actually need to, right? Because no one would buy this for $500 if they didn't put a lot of effort into it. The reason why I don't really blame the figure for falling apart at the waist ish area is because of how heavy the back is. If you don't support it, there's like no chance it's gonna stay together. And that's not the figure's fault, because if that wasn't the case, like I just said, it would suffer from it, right? I did mention that you have to basically build the figure out of the box, and that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but um, you have to put these claws on. You have to take them out of the box, or the styrofoam actually, and you have to put them on there, and then all these little legs. Read the instructions, okay? Okay? Read the instructions. This is coming from a man, and I never, ever read instructions, okay? All of these legs here, they look the exact same size, right? They look the exact same size. These two are slightly different from the rest of them. Like, genuinely, I don't see it, but somehow they're different sizes. How? Right? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. But I spent a good hour trying to get these on because I put all of these top ones on the bottom of this side and then the actual top ones up here. So all of the other ones that are supposed to go on the bottom, there was one here, and then the rest of them were on this side, right? That's not good. Obviously, it's not supposed to do that. So I was wondering why it was so hard to get those in there, and they just like wouldn't fit because they're not the right size. There's there's these three that are identical, and then these two which are different somehow. They're labeled 1, 2, and then these are all three. And 1, 2, these are all three, right? On the inside, there is a marker that clearly labels them 1, 2, and then 3, right? On the ball joints of these, there's also something that marks that. And I didn't see anyone mention that in any reviews that I saw. So I was very, very confused and very frustrated. For this figure, you need to read the manual, like the instructions, right? Because there's no way that you're going to be able to properly, what's it called? Properly use this figure, if that makes sense, or like put it together without any issues, especially for flight mode. The reason I'm not doing flight mode, I didn't even take the wings out of the box. For Legion or Iris, Iris's flight transformation is already like hell to do. You have to take all the wings off or all the tentacles off. Then you have to take his legs off and like bend them, uh, and put like all these like little things inside all these little slots, and then plug the massive wings into the slots where the tentacles used to be. And there's all of the things on his back that fall off, and it's just like a nightmare. Gamera's transformation, at least Gamera 3, his transformation is complicated, but it's not difficult, right? Like, it's not going to make you have a panic attack. You just have to take his arms and legs off, and then his tail off, and like the lower section of his shell, and then plug all that back in, right? Not that hard because of how small that figure is. Iris is a small figure compared to Legion, okay? Like, Iris is a big figure for S.H.monsterarts because of the tentacles and all that. Compared to Legion, he's like a shrimp, right? Iris is like a shrimp. Legion, oh my god, they did not need to do the flight mode. There was no reason for them to do the flight mode for this guy or girl. She uses the flight mode in the film for about 3 seconds, and then you never see it again. Like, why do you? Why would you put that here, right? There's no reason for that to be the main accessory, and it comes with nothing else. It is a little bit disappointing because she could have come with the I don't know what to call them, but like the red string things that come out of her uh crystal when Gamera breaks these off, or she could have come with the beam that comes out of her crystal, or even like a few mini legions like the Reveltech one did. Anything else would have been like everything else. They could have done all of that for roughly the same amount of like roughly the same price as just the flight mode alone. Because you have to take all of these arms off. You have to open the shell. You have to raise this and her head, like I said before. You have to take this off and the little peg in there and bend her over sideways. Pause. Take her bottom half off. Take all of those these parts off, like the middle parts of her legs off, and plug them with little, I don't even know what to call them, like little versions, and then flip all of those legs backwards and put like alone put the back half on a stand before even touching this part, right? And then you can barely even see the ball joint or the peg, whatever, inside of here to put the wings in, and it is a massive peg, which is terrifying, right? And like all of that just for it to not really be able to do anything. It's like a statue. The only thing that it can really move is its head, right? And I missed like a bunch of steps in the transformation because like I'm not really looking at anything for a reference right now, but it would take maybe like an hour and a half to get that all together, and then You look at it for maybe 5 minutes if you're not going to put it on your shelf like that. And if you do put it on your shelf like that, the amount of space it takes up is insane. It takes up so much space on your shelf, and it's almost impractical. There's no reason for it. I'm really like I'm really like shitting on this figure right now. It's That's what it sounds like, at least, but this is definitely one of the best releases S.H.monsterarts has done. I just really wish they didn't go with the flight mode. It's it's such a weird decision to me. So finally, after all is said and done, is this figure worth $500? I would say if you have the money and you love and like you love this kaiju obviously, and like you want this figure, absolutely pick it up. Okay? It is like it I'm not sure how to even explain it. It's so eye-catching on your shelf. It's so unique. It's like not many people will have it because of how expensive it is, right? It's like a really it's one of those figures that's like, "Yo, I have this figure." It's like a bragging right, I guess. Like how Destroya used to be before they announced the decisive battle version, or like Biolante and Kiryu. It's like that. Um Only if you can find it for retail, because if you look on eBay right now, they're already selling it on eBay for like 700 to I think I saw like 1,500, which is 3 times the original value, right? And the original value is insanely high, which no one is gonna pay $1,500 for a figure, right? My thing is, if you don't have the money though, if you don't have the money for this figure, but you really want it, don't buy it. If you don't have the money for it, don't buy it. Don't take like a big gamble on that, okay? If you have the money and you're like in a comfortable spot, whatever, and you really like this figure, buy it. Absolutely. If you're somewhere in between, like you have to think about it, you like mostly have the money, but you'll need to take some time on it, then it depends. It really does depend. And honestly, that's more of a you decision than a me decision. But I really am happy that I have this figure. That's all I'm going to say. If you just want a Legion figure for your collection, you can buy the Reveltech one, and it's just fine. It's articulated. It's small compared to this figure. It's like really small and it's really old, but it is a really good figure. Like even after this figure, this big mama, right? The Reveltech is still a good option. So don't feel like you're restricted to just the S.H.monsterarts. And if you don't care about articulation, then you can buy the X Plus figure, which I don't know the price of, but it's about little more than double the size of this guy, this girl, whatever, kaiju genders, right? And this is a really big figure, obviously. So if you just want a Legion, you don't care if it's articulated, and like you have the money, then buy the X Plus. If you and the Reveltech is maybe you can find it for like $70 for the last time I checked. If it's gone up by now, it's probably like 150, which is still pretty crazy for that figure, right? But it's a lot less than $500. Basically, what I'm saying, if you're not like a huge collector, then you don't have to get it. But if you have the money, I would, right? This is a really nice release, and it's one of the most it's one of the highest quality figures that the line has ever produced. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, I don't know how to I don't know how to end these. So bye.